BBC on CRACK? Owen Jones questions BBC's impartiality in reporting on Gaza in a provocative blog post. Owen Jones, a prominent journalist for The Guardian, raised serious questions about the BBC's reporting on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Specifically, Jones took issue with a recent headline on the BBC website, "Israel admits mistakes over medics' killings in Gaza." The BBC, a mouthpiece for the government. Jones' criticism reflects a broader debate about the BBC's role in reporting on sensitive and polarizing issues. While the BBC prides itself on its impartiality and journalistic integrity, critics like Jones argue that the broadcaster often reflects the perspectives of the British government, particularly in matters of foreign policy. This criticism is not new, but Jones' assertion that the BBC is complicit in genocide takes the argument to a far more serious level. The headline in question, "Israel admits mistakes over medics' killings in Gaza," refers to a situation in which Israeli forces acknowledged errors in the killing of Palestinian medics during military operations in Gaza. Critics argue that the BBC's phrasing downplays the severity of the incident, framing it as a regrettable mistake rather than a deliberate act with grave consequences. This kind of language, Jones suggests, undermines the gravity of the violence and perpetuates a narrative that absolves Israel of accountability. Media bias and the power of language. The power of language in shaping public perception cannot be overstated. The way news organizations frame events influences how the public understands and responds to them. In the context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, where narratives are deeply contested, the choice of words can carry significant weight. Critics argue that the BBC's headline reflects a broader pattern of bias in its reporting on the conflict, where Israeli actions are often framed as defensive or accidental, while Palestinian suffering is marginalized or ignored. Jones' critique goes beyond a single headline, however. He is pointing to a systemic issue within the BBC, where the broadcaster's coverage of the conflict consistently aligns with the British government's pro-Israel stance. This alignment, Jones argues, amounts to complicity in the oppression and violence faced by Palestinians, by framing Israeli actions in a way that minimizes their culpability. The BBC, in Jones' view, becomes an active participant in perpetuating the status quo. Implications for public trust. The accusation that the BBC is complicit in genocide is a damning one, and it raises important questions about the role of media in democratic societies. The BBC, as a publicly funded broadcaster, has a responsibility to uphold the highest standards of journalism, including impartiality and accuracy. If the BBC is indeed aligning its reporting with the interests of the British government, it undermines not only its credibility, but also the public's trust in independent journalism. For many, the BBC is a trusted source of news, and its reputation for fairness and balance is a cornerstone of its identity. If that reputation is eroded, the consequences could be far-reaching. Public trust in media is already under strain in an era of misinformation and propaganda. Allegations of bias and complicity in human rights abuses only serve to deepen the divide. The broader context. Jones' critique of the BBC must be understood within the broader context of media coverage of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. For decades, the conflict has been a flashpoint for debates about media bias, with accusations of pro-Israeli and pro-Palestinian slants leveled at various outlets. The BBC in particular has long been a target of criticism from both sides, with some arguing that its coverage is too sympathetic to Israel, while others claim it is too critical. In recent years, however, the balance appears to have shifted. With the rise of social media and independent journalism, alternative perspectives on the conflict have gained traction, challenging the dominant narratives presented by mainstream outlets like the BBC. For some, this shift has highlighted the limitations of traditional media in covering complex and deeply politicized issues. Call for accountability. Owen Jones' blog post is more than just a critique of a single headline. It is a call for accountability in journalism. In an era where misinformation and propaganda are rampant, the need for truthful and unbiased reporting has never been greater. Journalists and media organizations have a moral and ethical responsibility to report the facts as they are, without fear or favor. For the BBC, this means taking a hard look at its coverage of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and ensuring that it reflects the full complexity of the issue. It also means being transparent about its editorial decisions and constructively engaging with critics. Only by doing so can the BBC maintain its reputation as a trusted source of news and uphold the principles of impartiality that it holds dear. Conclusion. Owen Jones' provocative question: is the BBC on crack? Is less about the BBC's sanity and more about its integrity. The accusation that the BBC is complicit in genocide is a serious one, and it challenges the broadcaster to reflect on its role in shaping public understanding of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. While the BBC has a long history of quality journalism, it is not immune to criticism. In the end, the test of a free and independent press is its willingness to listen to criticism and adapt to the changing needs of the public it serves. As the debate over media bias and accountability continues, one thing is clear: the way we consume and interpret information has never been more important. Whether the BBC is on crack or not, the conversation sparked by Jones' blog post is a reminder of the power of journalism to shape our understanding of the world, and the responsibility that comes with that power.